Imagine a quiet night when everything seems ordinary. Cities hum softly, oceans breathe against the coasts, and billions of people sleep beneath a calm sky. But then, without warning, the impossible happens. Earth doubles in size overnight. No explosion, no warning, no celestial event. Just a silent, incomprehensible expansion. When morning comes, the world looks the same, familiar mountains, familiar cities, yet everything has changed. The ground feels heavier, the air thicker, and gravity stronger. Humanity awakens to a planet that has become 8 times more massive, twice as wide, and infinitely more dangerous. At first, people wouldn't understand. Coffee cups would feel oddly heavy, legs would tremble after a few steps, and lifting anything would seem like an effort. The sudden increase in gravity, nearly twice what it was, would press everything to the ground. The human body, evolved over millions of years to live comfortably under 1G, would instantly struggle under the new force. Hearts would strain to push blood upward, lungs would labor to draw in air, and bones would feel as if filled with lead. Many people might collapse simply trying to stand. Children could no longer run freely. The elderly would not be able to walk at all. Hospitals would overflow, not with sickness, but with exhaustion. Buildings, too, would feel the change. Skyscrapers designed to withstand wind and earthquakes would begin to sag and fracture under their own amplified weight. Bridges would buckle and roads would crack open. The infrastructure of civilization, everything from power lines to airplanes, was built for a lighter world. The great towers of humanity would crumble, not because of violence, but because of physics. The Earth's crust itself would groan. The sudden compression of tectonic plates would trigger earthquakes across every continent. Volcanoes, once dormant, would awaken, their magma now under immense new pressure. Entire regions could be reshaped in days. The oceans would transform next. Twice the gravity would pull water tighter to the planet, increasing pressure on the seafloor. Coastal areas would experience strange effects. Massive tides as the oceans readjust to the planet's new balance. Low-lying islands would vanish beneath rising waves. Storms would intensify as atmospheric pressure climbed. A single hurricane in this new world would be more destructive than any in recorded history, with winds dense enough to rip forests apart. Airplanes could no longer fly. Even birds would struggle, their wings no longer able to generate enough lift. The skies would grow eerily quiet. The atmosphere itself would become denser, pulled closer to the surface by the increased gravity. The sky would darken, not because of pollution, but because light would scatter differently through the thick air. The familiar blue might fade into a darker shade, a muted indigo or greenish gray. Breathing would feel strange, as though standing at the bottom of a deep valley filled with invisible weight. The sound would change too. Every word, every note of music would sound slightly lower, slightly slower, muffled by the heavy air. Days would lengthen. Doubling Earth's size would alter its rotation. A larger planet spins more slowly. A day might stretch to 30, maybe 40 hours. At first, people might welcome the longer sunlight, but soon they'd realize the cost. Longer days mean more heat. Longer nights mean deeper cold. Crops adapted to steady light cycles would fail. Deserts would expand as the extended sunlight scorches the ground, while long nights would bring frost even in warm regions. Weather patterns would lose their rhythm. Rainforests could dry up, and tundras might thaw only to freeze again hours later. The moon would not escape this transformation. The doubled Earth would exert a stronger pull on it, dragging it closer. Over time, tidal forces could rip the moon apart, turning it into a glowing ring of dust and rock circling the planet. The sight would be breathtaking, a white and silver halo glowing across the night. But it would be born from catastrophe. Without the moon's stabilizing effect, Earth's axial tilt might begin to wobble, throwing the seasons into chaos. Winters could last years, summers could scorch the planet for decades. Human civilization, already on its knees, would face collapse. Electricity grids would fail as generators succumb to stress. Crops would wither, animals die, and supply chains would vanish. The global population would plummet. Cities would turn into ruins, survivors seeking refuge underground, where pressure and temperature could be controlled. Scientists would scramble to adapt. They might design exoskeletons to help people move under the crushing gravity, or develop genetic modifications to strengthen bones and muscles. Humanity would enter an era of forced evolution. Survival not by choice, but by necessity. Over generations, life would adapt. Humans would grow shorter and more compact. Bones would thicken. Lungs and hearts would become more powerful. Movement would slow, but strength would increase. The human silhouette would change. Dense, resilient, a species sculpted by weight. Other creatures would follow suit. Birds would lose their wings, evolving into strong runners. Trees would grow shorter and thicker, their branches hugging close to the trunk. Flowers would shrink, unable to lift their delicate heads. The planet would become a world of strength, not grace. Seas would settle into new shapes, continents would drift under the heavier crust, and a new geological age would begin. Mountains would flatten slightly under the relentless pull, forming endless plateaus and wide valleys. Rivers would carve deeper canyons, their flow accelerated by the increased gravity. The sound of water would change. Lower, heavier, as if even nature's voice had deepened. The night sky, though darker, would still hold beauty. The shattered remains of the moon would form shimmering bands that caught sunlight at dawn and dusk. Humanity's myths would evolve, children growing up beneath the glowing ring, never knowing the single moon their ancestors once saw. The old world would become legend, a lighter, freer place that existed only in stories. Yet, even under such immense pressure, life would endure. People would learn to live slower, to appreciate smaller distances, to find strength in survival itself. New technologies would rise, gravity-resistant materials, bioengineered plants that thrive under dense air, underground cities lit by artificial suns. Humanity would become a species of the deep earth, thriving in what once would have seemed unbearable. And as the centuries passed, the memory of the old planet, the lighter, easier Earth, would fade. The new humans, born under doubled gravity, would not feel crushed. They would feel normal. The story of the sudden expansion would be a myth, a tale of gods who grew the Earth in a single night. And perhaps, standing beneath the glowing rings in the dark sky, people would whisper that the weight of their world had made them stronger. For in this new reality, the world itself would teach its greatest lesson, that even under twice the gravity, life finds a way to rise. Slowly, heavily, but still rising, always reaching upward, even as the heavens press down.